Okay, so today we're diving into something huge, the story of the Roman Empire. I mean, this is the civilization that basically turned the Mediterranean into its own private lake, right? Mare Nostrum.
Exactly, our sea. And their impact, well, it's everywhere. European culture, law, even the languages we speak, its echoes are definitely still around.
For sure. So our mission, really, in this deep dive is to follow that whole story. How did Rome go from this, like, tiny village to this massive empire and then, the long, complicated fall?
Mhm.
We've looked at a couple of really detailed video summaries covering Roman history, trying to pull out those key moments, those turning points, maybe some surprising things that explain why it was so massive.
Yeah, and Rome's legacy is just, it's monumental. You've got
Mhm.
legal systems, architecture, even phrases like all roads lead to Rome still resonate.
Right.
So the idea today is to connect those dots, show how maybe small decisions led to these huge shifts, hopefully giving you, the listener, some aha moments, especially if you know a bit about Rome but want to go deeper.
Okay, let's do it. That massive influence really sets the scene. So let's go way back. 753 BC.
The founding.
Yeah, the founding. And it's wild to think this empire started with a legend, right? Romulus, raised by a wolf, kills his brother.
A pretty raw start.
Totally raw. And it was just a few huts on the Tiber River back then. Now, this early time, the Roman Seven Kings period, you had these powerful rulers, often good fighters, but power corrupts, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
They started abusing it, and that didn't sit well with the big families in the city.
Right, the nobility.
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting. The nobility, they were forming the Senate, getting organized,
A powerful body.
and they got really nervous about these kings having absolute power. So eventually they just kicked them out, overthrew the monarchy, established the Roman Republic, a whole new era.
And that shift was just fundamental. The Senate wasn't just a bunch of rich guys. It became this sophisticated political machine. It really shaped Rome's republican ideals for centuries.
So this laid the groundwork, even when Rome was still pretty small.
Absolutely. It's this crucial Genesis period. They were building the foundations for everything that came later. It's kind of interesting, you had Alexander the Great doing these epic, fast conquests out east.
Yeah, flashy stuff.
Right. Meanwhile, Rome was just quietly, steadily building institutions, expanding bit by bit, a very different approach.
And expand they did. The Republic grew fast, took over central and southern Italy, controlled the whole peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
But that ambition naturally led them straight into conflict with another big power, Carthage.
The big rival, based in North Africa, controlling the Western Med.
Yeah. And Sicily, that island right in the middle, became the flashpoint, which kicks off one of history's biggest showdowns, the Punic Wars. 3 of them.
A massive struggle.
So the First Punic War starts 264 BC, mostly fought at sea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rome wasn't really a naval power.
Not initially, no. They had to learn fast. Build a fleet from scratch, basically.
And they did. They beat Carthage, got Sicily, got war payments, reparations. But Carthage wasn't done.
Not by a long shot. They were humiliated. They wanted revenge.
Which brings us to the Second Punic War and Hannibal.
Ah, Hannibal. A military genius, truly.
His plan was just audacious. Marches tens of thousands of troops and elephants over the Alps.
Elephants across the Alps.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. Completely caught Rome off guard.
Totally. He devastated Italy. Rome apparently lost something like 500,000 soldiers.
An unbelievable number of casualties. It was an existential threat. Could have broken them.
But it didn't. That's the thing about Rome, isn't it? Their resilience. They just absorbed these huge losses, raised new armies.
That civic loyalty, the citizen-soldier system,
Yeah.
it gave them a strategic depth.
Yeah.
Carthage just couldn't match.
Right. So Rome regrouped, sent an army to attack Carthage itself back in Africa.
Pulled Hannibal back home.
Yep. And he faces the Roman general Scipio at the Battle of Zama. Hannibal loses. Carthage surrenders again, pays even more money.
Hannibal's Alps crossing, though, tactically brilliant, daring. It almost destroyed Rome, but paradoxically, it kind of forged them, made them tougher, more unified.
Yeah, hardened them.
And these wars, they weren't just about grabbing land. They were about absolute control of the Mediterranean, making it their lake. That dominance is what really set the stage for Rome's massive growth later on.
Okay, so they beat Carthage twice. But then, the Third Punic War, 146 BC, Rome decides to just wipe them out.
Utterly destroy them, yeah. Even though Carthage had no weapons left, basically, they resisted for 3 years. There are stories of women cutting their hair to make bowstrings.
Wow.
But Rome eventually won. Razed the city, plowed the land, salted it, turned it into the Roman province of Africa. It raises a serious question, doesn't it? What does that kind of total annihilation of a rival say about Rome? How did that shape them?
That's heavy. Maybe it was pure ruthlessness. Or maybe after Hannibal nearly beat them, they just decided, never again, no rival stands. A brutal message.
Could be a pragmatic, if brutal, calculation.
So Carthage is gone, the Met is theirs. Rome just explodes in size and wealth. But, like always, success comes with problems back home.
Dark consequences, yeah.
All this new land, tons of slaves pouring in, wealthy Romans, the aristocrats, they snap up huge chunks of land.
Creating these massive plantations, the latifundia.
Right, latifundia, worked by slaves, basically giant agribusinesses.
And this completely changed things. It puts the small farmers off their land. These were the guys who used to be the backbone of the army, right?
Exactly. Suddenly they're landless, moving to the cities, poor. A huge gap between the rich and poor opens up. Society gets really unstable. Politics splits into factions, nobles versus the common people, the plebeians.
Deep discontent. Fertile ground for conflict.
Which leads to figures like the Gracchus brothers. Around 134 BC, they were on the plebeian side, tried to pass land reforms, limit how much land the nobles could own.
Trying to fix that inequality.
But the Senate, no way. They fought back hard, had both brothers assassinated.
Brutal. And the reforms failed. Made the wealth gap worse. Really entrenched the Senate's power.
And the frustration just kept building. You even get a massive slave revolt led by the gladiator Spartacus, starting around, 111 BC?
Yeah, Spartacus. Rallied thousands. Actually controlled southern Italy for a while. A serious threat.
But Rome eventually crushed it. And the punishment, just horrific. Crucified 6,000 of the captured rebels along the Appian Way.
A terrifying display of power. Yeah, this whole period really shows how fast growth can mess things up internally. The latifundia didn't just change the economy. They tore at the social fabric.
Created huge divisions.
And assassinating the Gracchus brothers. That set a really dangerous precedent. Political violence became, almost normalized. It showed how far the powerful would go to resist change, and it helped break down the Republic's norms.
So the Republic is clearly struggling. Inequality, violence, it can't solve its own problems. And into this mess steps.
Julius Caesar.
Let's see Caesar. A game changer.
Definitely. He was charismatic, allied with the plebeian faction, but mostly he got famous and powerful through war, conquering Gaul, modern France, and Britannia.
Brilliant general, hugely popular with his soldiers and the people, which, of course, scared the Senate. Especially Pompey, another powerful general, now his rival. They saw Caesar getting too big for his boots.
Fear he wanted to be king, basically.
So they ordered him. Disband your army, come back to Rome alone. They were planning to kill him, right?
Almost certainly. Once he was vulnerable.
But Caesar knew. He gets to the Rubicon River, the border of Italy proper, and he makes the call. 49 BC. Leads his army across, says, Alea iacta est.
The die is cast.
Yep. Basically, it's on. Declares war on the Senate. Civil war erupts.
And Caesar wins. His military skill was just superior. Defeats Pompey.
Pompey runs off to Egypt, gets assassinated there. So Caesar is now the top dog, the supreme ruler, dictator. He brings in reforms, gets involved with Cleopatra in Egypt. Seems pretty popular.
He did implement some popular changes, yeah. Address some of the issues.
His power kept growing. He looked more and more like a king. And for many Romans, especially senators who valued the Republic, that was unacceptable.
That deep-seated fear of monarchy.
So 44 BC, assassination. Stabbed to death in the Senate by a group of senators, including Brutus, someone he trusted. The famous line, et tu, Brute, you too, Brutus.
A truly dramatic end. But Caesar crossing the Rubicon. That was the point of no return. He didn't just pave the way for empire, he effectively ended the Republic right there. Power was concentrated in one man.
Yeah, the forms were still there, but the reality had changed.
Exactly. And his story really highlights that Roman paradox. Hating kings, yet allowing, even needing, one man to take charge when things fell apart. It makes you ask, for any republic, how much power is too much for one person before the whole system breaks?
Good question. So Caesar's dead. And predictably, more chaos, power vacuum.
Always happens.
3 main guys step up. Mark Antony, Caesar's right-hand man. Octavian, Caesar's young adopted son. And Lepidus. They form a triumvirate, split the empire between them.
A shaky alliance at best.
Totally shaky. The Lepidus gets pushed aside pretty quick by Octavian, so it boils down to Octavian versus Antony.
The final showdown.
Antony had taken the rich eastern provinces. And, like Caesar, he gets involved with Cleopatra. Allies himself with Egypt, basically against Rome.
Another foreign queen playing a huge role in Roman politics. It's fascinating.
It really is. So This leads to the final battle, the naval battle of Actium. Octavian wins decisively. Antony and Cleopatra, well, they don't survive the aftermath.
Their defeat clears the way for Octavian.
Completely. He's the last man standing, the undisputed ruler. The Senate gives him the title Augustus, the venerable one.
A title packed with authority and prestige.
And even though he kept up appearances, pretending the Republic was still alive, he was the first Roman emperor. This is the start of the imperial era, the end of the Republic, for real this time.
It was a subtle shift in many ways, but utterly profound. The institutions looked similar, but all the real power now flowed from one man, the emperor. That changed Roman governance forever.
So the empire begins. Augustus rules for a long time, brings stability. But after him, the job becomes hereditary, which leads to some questionable emperors.
Like Caligula and Nero.
Yep.
Definitely some low points there. Tyranny, cruelty, the whole package.
Right. But thankfully, that wasn't the whole story. There was this amazing period called the Five Good Emperors.
Ah, yes, a golden age. These guys were chosen for their ability, not just because of who their dad was.
And this era brought the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, like a century of relative stability and prosperity across this huge empire.
It was the peak, really. Under Trajan, one of those five, the empire reached its absolute largest size, from Mesopotamia, modern Iraq, all the way to Britain.
Incredible reach. But golden ages don't last forever. After this period, things started to wobble again. You get Emperor Commodus.
The son of the last good emperor, Marcus Aurelius, and Commodus was not good. Paranoid, obsessed with gladiatorial games, corrupt. His reign marked a real downturn.
And ended with his assassination, right? Kicking off more chaos.
Exactly. The Pax Romana, paradoxically, might have sowed some seeds of decline. Peace meant less civic engagement, maybe. People became more reliant on this central, often military power. And Commodus's death triggered the crisis of the 3rd century.
Which you mentioned earlier, the soldier emperors.
That's the one. Army commanders just started seizing power. You had something like 25 emperors in 50 years. Constant civil war.
25 in 50 years. How does anything even function like that?
Barely. It was chaos. And all this internal fighting happened while external threats were getting worse. Germanic tribes pressing on the borders, the Sasanian Empire and Persia pushing back hard. It severely weakened Rome.
It sounds like a perfect storm. Internal collapse meeting external pressure. How did they pull out of that?
Well, eventually, Emperor Diocletian emerged. Late 3rd century. He managed to end the soldier emperor period, brought some stability back with major reforms, divided the empire administratively, tried to make it more manageable.
Okay, so some stabilization.
Yeah.
And then Constantine.
Constantine the Great, yeah. Diocletian's successor. He continued the reforms, famously legalized Christianity. Huge change.
Massive. And he moved the capital.
Right. Moved the main administrative center from Rome, which was kind of declining, to Byzantium. Renamed it Constantinople. Strategic location, easier to defend, closer to the wealthy eastern provinces.
Smart move, maybe. But still not enough.
Apparently not enough to keep it all together. After Constantine died, that central leadership faded. Things started to fracture again. And then, in 395 AD, Emperor Theodosius made it official. He formally split the empire.
Into West and East?
Exactly. The Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. Gave one half to each of his sons.
And the West got the short end of the stick.
Pretty much. Geographically, it was less wealthy. The rich agricultural lands like Egypt were in the east. Plus, the West faced way more intense pressure from those huge Germanic migrations happening in the 4th and 5th centuries.
So weaker economically, facing constant invasion.
And plagued by internal struggles, often incompetent emperors. It just slowly crumbled. Germanic tribes didn't just invade, they settled, carved out kingdoms within the Western Empire.
Until the final moment, 476 AD.
Yep. The Germanic general Odoacer just deposed the last Western Roman emperor, a young boy named Romulus Augustulus.
Romulus Augustulus. Wow, the last emperor named after the founder, Romulus.
Okay.
Kind of ironic.
It is, isn't it? A symbolic bookend to the Western Empire's story.
So the West falls, but the East keeps going.
It does. For almost another 1,000 years. We often call it the Byzantine Empire, centered on Constantinople.
1,000 years is incredible longevity. Did they try to get the West back?
They did. In the 6th century, Emperor Justinian the Great had huge ambitions. He had this brilliant general, Belisarius.
Yeah, Belisarius. Yeah.
Who actually reconquered big chunks of the old West North Africa from the Vandals, even parts of Italy. Justinian also codified Roman law, the Justinian Code. Hugely influential.
A real period of resurgence.
Yeah.
But then disaster struck.
What happened? A massive plague. Probably the bubonic plague, the Black Death, swept through the Mediterranean, hit the empire incredibly hard.
Oh, wow. Like a pandemic?
Exactly. It killed millions, devastated the economy, weakened the army. Justinian health got sick but survived. But the empire never fully recovered from the blow. They lost a lot of those reconquered territories soon after.
Man, talk about bad timing. A plague hits right when you're trying to rebuild.
Terrible timing. And after Justinian, Byzantium faced, well, a long, slow decline. Less capable emperors, constant wars, Persians, then the rise of Islam, bringing Arab conquests, Slavs moving into the Balkans, Avars. The territory just kept shrinking.
Fighting on all fronts, basically.
Pretty much, for centuries, until eventually the Byzantine Empire was really just Constantinople and a little bit of surrounding territory.
And then the final end, 1453.
1453 AD. After many attempts over the centuries, the Ottoman Empire, a powerful Islamic state, finally conquered Constantinople. That was it. The end of the Roman Empire, the eastern half, after more than 2,000 years since Rome's founding.
2,000 years. It's just mind-boggling. What a journey we've covered. From that tiny village, kings, republic, dictators, emperors, incredible highs, catastrophic lows, an empire across continents.
The scale is just immense.
And the influence. It lasted so long. Even after the West fell, you had things like the Holy Roman Empire trying to claim its legacy. Roman symbols like the eagle were used all over Europe. All roads lead to Rome. It wasn't just a saying. It reflected a reality for centuries. Law, architecture, government. It's baked into Western civilization.
It absolutely is. And the Eastern Empire, Byzantium, even with its different language and culture later on, consciously saw itself as Roman. It preserved so much law, administration, classical knowledge, and passed it on, influencing Eastern Europe and Russia profoundly. That plague, though, back in Justinian's time, it's a stark reminder, isn't it? How factors completely outside human control, like disease, can just change the course of history.
Yeah, definitely puts human ambition in perspective.
It does. You know, looking back at this whole epic story, Rome's incredible achievements, but also its deep internal problems, its cycles of growth and decay, it really offers a powerful way to think about any civilization, maybe even our own. It leaves you with a big question, I think. If an empire, as sophisticated, as organized, as militarily dominant as Rome, could rise so high and then eventually fall apart, what does that really tell us about power itself, about human ambition? Maybe about the impermanence of even the greatest things we build. It's something to mull over, don't you think?